Bava Kama. We are up to the Bava Kama, 7 lines at the top of the page. This week's Parsha Vayetze. Every time I learn it, you just think about Leah's comment to Rachel, and she didn't say a thing. When Leah said to Rachel, that is it bad enough? You took my husband away. Now you also want, the Duday, my son. Rachel took Leah's husband away. It wasn't the other way around. A true revisionist of history. And Rachel didn't say a word. That's why Rachel, Imenu, was zeicher to all the wonderful things. The Abisha only responded to Rachel. To get that sting and not to say, not make any response. Love him.
She was punished. Also, why did she want to die? Doim Rashi says is a Yasmin.
Louder.
Yeah. Jasmine is a fertility.
Exactly.
She had children. And my old sister and all the shvachis were having children. She wants to have children also. So she wants fertility treatment. So she tried it for Yasmin. So it was really L'Shem Shemayim.
Good point. Okay, we're learning now, continuing in the Chav Beis, a very fundamental argument here between Rabbi Yechon and Reish Lakish. And I told you a few days ago we'll come back to it because it relates to Chanukah. Itmar, 5 lines on top of the page. What happened was that the dog took a biscuit. We already had this thing about before as well. He took a biscuit and there's a piece of coal attached to the bottom, and then he went to a pile of the grains and he set fire there. So he said regarding the biscuit, it's Shen. Shen, you got to pay the full nezik. Regarding the grain, you only pay chatzi nezik because it's shreiris. He threw it, and therefore, or the fire itself travels. It's like a stone where we say that the regal normally an animal pays a full amount, but here you pay chatzi nezik because it's shreiris. So now the Gemara says an interesting thing. An interesting argument. Rabbi Yechon says, if you light a fire and the fire travels on its own, why am I responsible? Isha, your fire mashum chitza, but just like an arrow, you shoot an arrow and you hurt somebody, you cause damage. Why am I responsible? Because it's my force. Here too, it's my force that made this happen. The Shlakish says Isha mashum Monday. The Shlakish says no, that fire, just like any other possession you have, something that you have possession of, you're responsible for. And Rashi said the nafkamina, and the other traders agree, but Rashi learns the nafkamina between Rabbi Yechon and Shlakish is, according to the Shlakish, when are you chayiv for fire if the object belongs to you? If the object does not belong to you, just like you're not responsible for someone else's cow, not to cause damage, I'm not responsible for someone else's object fire. But if the object belongs to me, and then and I bring the fire from my object, so then I'm chayiv. And according to Rabbi Yechon, it makes no difference. According to Shlakish. Yes, exactly. And other Rishonim agree. They hold makes no difference. It belongs to you. It doesn't belong to you. And we'll see what mine is. So first of all, Rish Lakish my time. Why does Lakish read Rabbi Yechon? He says, arrow. It's your force. The arrow would be limp. It would slide there, be stationary. You propelled it in the air. High limit goes the fire. You didn't put any force in there. You lit the fire, but now it travels on its own with the help of the wind. Nothing to do with you. And my time why does he use Lakish? An animal, whatever it is, to make hold you responsible. There's some mamoshes there, something tangible to be able to make chayiv. And even by boyer, we're going to learn in the noons. There's a big machlekes. What's my obligation or what's my liability by boyer? Is it chaboter, which means because the impact now that you hit the wall or the ground, or is it the havola? The air now is stale. And if it's havola, that doesn't have mamashas either. But on the other hand, over there, you created the havola by digging out the dirt. So we'll see later. Fire, there's nothing tangible here. Okay, now we're going to ask a series of questions. Before we go weiter, the Nemuki Yosef, I told you last time, asked the most fundamental question that everybody goes to town with, and he wants to know. So he says, over here, when you lit a fire, you had no intention. When you lit a fire, you had no intention to burn the other guy's house down. It just went on its own, and you didn't do anything about it, so you're responsible. Comes Friday, and according to Rabbi Yechon, it's as if you made the whole thing right now, just like an arrow. Once the arrow leaves your hand, so L'chaydi says, and he says, Nochme, what happens? The guy lit a fire, and so Shabbos, he said, L'chaydi, when you light the candles on Shabbos, you want it to burn into Shabbos. That's the whole mitzvah. You want it to burn into the night, you can have your meal on Shabbos. No, so it's your koyach burning on Shabbos. Every second that is burning is you wanted it. So he answers that it all happened the moment you lit it. Now prove it to you, he says. What happened? The guy lights a fire and then he dies. And the fire travels, burns somebody's house down. Can you go to the state and collect the money? You just caused the damage? Of course he can. But look, he was dead. So not the pshat is that every second that is burning, he's doing it because he's dead. It must be that it all happened the moment he did, just like every arrow. He says, if you're going to tell me that the case of an arrow, every second is flying in the air, it's as if you're pushing it, so l'chayda, you should be potter because it's an inus. You can't pull it back. Must be that everything that happened the moment the chates left your bow. Same thing over here. The moment you lit it, all happened then. That's what Muki Yosef says. So interesting. In Chanukah, we have a machlekes if hadloka oisa mitzvah or hanocha oisa mitzvah. What's the mitzvah to light, or the mitzvah is to burn? So maybe the pshat is that's a machlekes Rabbi Yochanan Shlokish. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the word is it all happened the moment you lit it. So the mitzvah is the hadloka because every second is as if you're lighting it. You did it the first moment, but the first moment, everything that's going to happen later already happened now. And the one who says hanocha is mitzvah says no, like Rish Lakish, that we don't say that it's isha mishum chitzov, and therefore every second that is burning is the mitzvah that is burning, and that's why hanocha is that is burning, not the lighting. The lighting is 1 second and it's over. It's the burning every second. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, the whole lighting that's going to happen in the next 45 minutes already happened right now. And so on. But the famous question is, according to the Chudusharim and others ask, so Chanukah, the whole Indian is it has dafka light in the night, but according to you, you're already all lit in the day. So how are you Yitzhak Chanukah? So he says there's a big difference between the relation between you and the fire itself. If you focus on you want to hold me responsible, it has to be my association with the fire. My association was when I lit it. So we say that in theory, everything that happens later already happened right now because I no longer have any physical association. If you look at it from the fire's perspective, every second that is burning is burning. So therefore, al Chanukah, your yaitze into the night because it's burning into the night. Anyway, thinking about further, Tanam, we learned says our Mishnah. Now let's understand our Mishnah. So, with 2 parts. The coal for the coal you pay full nezek shalom, and for the piece of for the cookie you pay the biscuit you pay nezek shalom because it's shen, and for the fire which you threw, it's we said aside. The fire is treated like tzreiros, and you pay only half a nezek. So, that fire is like your koyach, which is like tzreiros, is therefore makes sense. Chitz of the kelabu, it is tzreiros of the dog, and that's why you pay half amount. If you're going to say lighting a fire is like I'm responsible for my possessions, so l'chayda high eish lav about kelabu. Wait, actually, very simply, this fire is part of the biscuit which belonged to somebody else. And I remember, I'm responsible for my cow. I'm responsible for everything that I did. I'm not responsible for someone else's cow. Since this coal, these coal embers belong to somebody else, so why am I responsible?
Until now, this is my fire toasting my toast, and my dog took it. Now I know it's someone else's fire.
That's exactly. That's actually literally. It has to be mine, your money, and it's not my money. Is 3 things happen. You know what talking about here? We're not focusing on the fire, that the fire traveled, and we're calling that either, and we're calling it shrouders, and you're saying, oh, if I hold his mum and it belongs to somebody else. The ad yaduya, he actually threw it. The dog threw the fire. So there's 3 things now. There's the biscuit, there's where the fire landed, the makam gechelis, and then the fire that traveled. When he said, when I say it's mumman, is the fire that traveled, not where you landed, because that's mamasha hezek, direct hezek. It's the fire that traveled. So it goes as follows. Why? Shen. Mokum gachelis, which you threw, that's mamish traders. You throw a rock, you break a window, you mamish traders, masham chatzinezek. Because halacha is traders pay half a nezek. Val godish kula, you take a potter. You potter for the fire that travel because it's not my money, it's not my fire. Rabbi Yochanan, he says, the anuchse. I say you never threw it in the first place. You just put it down. But you also have these 3 things, where the fire, where you put the biscuit down, and the coal, and then when it traveled. So because this is a regal. For the biscuit is shen, but putting the coal down, that's normal regal. It walks in and takes things and it drops things. So that is regal. Regal, you pay nezek shalom in a private property. Vala godish, and then when and then the fire that traveled on its own, that's chitzov, that's your koyach, and that's tzreiros. And mishalom chatzin nezek. Okay, Toshma coming here. Gomel, Toe, and Pishti. We had this in the Sugi of Chanukah. A camel that was ungalot and that was filled up with flax. The other was traveling Bishus Arabim in the main street. Nichnas up Pishtoina and so he overloaded his camel so that the flax actually entered inside the store, which had candles burning. The dolkoi and got caught on fire. Beneda shel Chenveni. There was candles there from the storekeeper, but it was in private property. If the heatlik is a bit and burned down the tire, but yeah, Balgom was chayiv. And the Balgom was chayiv. He shouldn't have been, his make sure his flax didn't get inside the store. But the Chenveni placed his candle outside, which he had a right to, and Chenveni chayiv, Chenveni responsible. So Yehuda says, except Chanukah. They're Chanukah potter. Why? Because the mitzvah, and everyone knows that the candles are outside. They should have been more careful. Now says the Gemara as follows. The one who says that what fire is chai because it's your koyach is chitza the gamalu. I don't care that the candle belonged to the storekeeper. The fact is that you're the one who's causing the fire to travel everywhere. So that's your koyach, your force, so the force of the gamal, and of course the force of the gamal, he has to pay. Okay, he has to pay. Ella the mandam and according to Shlok, it says it has to be yours, but it's not your fire. The fire belongs to the storekeeper. The fire doesn't belong to the owner of the camel, it belongs to the storekeeper. You know what he's talking about here? What happened was that the animal just walks around and it's caught on fire, the flax, and he touches everything. There's no fire traveling. We're not talking about a case of fire traveling. It's mamish a direct mazik. The flax is touching this house. The flax is everything made out of wood, and everything catches on fire directly. And that's why he is chayiv. So this is like the Mokam Gachelis. You said before that you're chayiv. But you're right. If the H would have traveled, it would have been potter, according to the Shlokish. Say, if we look at the next part, if the chenveni put his camel outside, the chenveni is chayiv. But if you're telling me that the camel's walking and touching every single thing, then who cares who's? Yeah, exactly. Then why is the old storekeeper chayiv? You're a camel who took the fire, and it's exactly. So Gemara says, Kisha Amda, the animal stood still. The animal stood still, caught on fire, and you stood still, letting everything catch on fire. On the contrary, if the animal stood still, in the case where we thought the animal was walking around, touching everything, and the chenvi had no right to the candle outside, so maybe they both are responsible. He for the candle, you for the touching everything, so therefore you both share in the cost. If the camel decides to stop and make sure that everything catches on fire, then the Bava Kama should surely be chayiv. What are you telling me stories here? I was talking about animals generally sometimes have to urinate, and when they do, they can't go any further. So because the chedvi had no right to put the candle outside, and the camel stopped, and the owner is an oinus, he can't do anything about it, and that's why the Bava Kama is potter, and the other guy's chayiv. Now the Gemara explains. Reisha Bava Kama chayiv. In the first case, the owner of the camel is chayiv. The loy betina. Why did you load up your camel so much that it went into the store? So it's your fault, your responsibility. Seifa chenveni chayiv. The seifa, the storekeeper is chayiv. The loy iboy leilanuchi neidim ebroish. I put his candle on the outside. And Teshuvah explained what the Gemara is adding. This is how we learned shot in the beginning. So he's saying even after what we just said right now, so still touching everything else. This is the svara. Tashma coming here. Hamadlik es hagodish. If somebody lights a pile of grains. There's a goat tied up there. So you burnt the goat. Not only you destroy the grain, you also burnt the goat. The Evet Samalay, and there was a slave there, or a servant standing there, he could have walked away. The Nisivim, they all got burnt. Chayiv is chayiv. It's chayiv for all three of them. According to Rashi, the goat did not have to be tied down. Goats are not clever enough to run away when there's fire, and therefore you're responsible for the goat even if it wasn't tied. According to the Rashbam, the only reason why you're responsible is because the goat was tied down. If the goat wasn't tied down, he should have ran away. I'm not liable. And now, what do you call it? With the Ebed, you're not chayiv for the Ebed because the Ebed should have walked away. The Ebed should have walked away. Why we introduced the goat at all? What's the relevance of a goat? The Eved and the Godish generally belong to the same owner. You have a Godish, you send the Eved out, make sure it's all smooth or piled up properly. The Gdi could belong to another owner, as we'll soon see in the why that's relevant. What about Eved Kafas Lali? So when we say the Chai, we mean you Chai for the goat, because the goat was tied down and you killed it, and you Chai for the pile of grain, but you're not Chai for the Eved. You should have walked away. Why do you stay there for? What case number two? What happens if Eved Kafusloy, the Eved was tied down? I mean, the Eved couldn't run away, so you commit a murder here. The Gedi Samachloy, and there was a goat next to him, and the Nisiv Imoy, and they got burnt. L'chayda potter. You potter for the goat, you potter for the goat. Now, why you potter? Here we introduce the rule of kam labor de rabba meneh. When you kill an Eved, you're chayiv misa. And Rashi brings the pasuk, you're chayiv misa like anybody else. So if once you get punished with death, we say kam rabba will give you the stricter punishment, and you exonerate for paying. Yeah, exactly. So what's the point of the whole Gemara? So now remember, if you kill somebody through fire, according to Rabbi Yechon, it says that it's my energy. I mean, it's like if I take an arrow and a gun and I shoot someone and kill them, I'm high because it's my force, direct. But if my cow killed somebody, I don't get killed for it. So according to Rabbi Yechon, if you lit a fire and the fire killed, traveled and killed someone, you're chayiv misa. But according to the Shlach, it's no different than my cow killing someone. Where's Kamad Rabbi coming in? Where's chayiv misa coming in? Misa, yeah, or Malchus also. Malchus also ain't like in the Misham. Well, actually, no. He's still going to pay bucks. Yeah. It's two separate cases, it won't be one case. Why? Because since you're liable for the death, you committed murder, it's you committed murder, you're going to be punished for it with death. So therefore, Kamad Rabbi will give you the stricter punishment and let you off with the lighter punishment. It's like your possessions are my potter. If your cow were to kill the slave, what happens then? You don't going to stand trial for murder. You pay $30 knas, and that's it. So what's going on here? According to the Shlach, how does it understand? So here we have an example of fire causing death and saying chayv misa. It's talking about a case where the fire didn't travel. I take a hold of the fire traveled and you burnt the house down with somebody there, you put it for murder. When you chayiv, you placed the fire directly on the heart of the Eved, for example. You killed him directly, so it's not the fire traveling, you were the mazik. You actually took the fire and placed it on the Eved himself. So what's the chiddush over here? If you mama directly went and you murdered the Eved, and you're telling me, but you putter for the goat, you putter for the pile of grain. Of course I'm putter. That's the rule we had in Ksudut of Lamdal. We'll have so many places. So what's the point of this of this particular mission? The Gemara says, "Lo no, we need it. What happens? Well, has a few places in the Shas. What happens if you come with Rabbanah, you murdered somebody who's wearing someone else's coat? So the misa is lazer. The reason why I'm going to be killed for murder because I killed this person, Yankel, but the coat I have to pay belongs to Shmerel. Do we still say Kamla Midrabbanah in this case or not? And in fact, we talk about some of the shayim we bring a eye for the fact that on Shabbos you burn a house down. The din is Kamla Midrabbanah. You don't have to pay for the house because you're going to chayiv skila. But the skila is la Hashem because you desecrated Shabbos, and the money for the house belongs to this person. And yet we say Kamla Midrabbanah. So we see Misa Lazeh or Mama Lazeh is potter. Others say there's no eye from there because the Shechina is not considered another party. The Shechina is part of every single person, so it's like one and the same. We're talking about there were two distinct owners. What happens then? The Chiddush here is that even though the Gedi, but that's why we bring in Gedi. The Eved and God usually go hand in hand. Why is the Eved even there? Because the owner said to the Eved, go to my God, they should fix it up. But the Gedi belongs to another party. And that's why we talk about a Gedi. So there are two different owners. And the Chiddush is, we still say, Kom lebed Rabbaneh, even though they're two different owners. Toshma coming here. Hashaleach es habeira. We had this before as one beginning of this period. Somebody sent a fire, be a chezer cotton, hand of a chezer cotton, pot the medini adam, and they go ahead and burn something down. Mitzad a court in our court system, we can't charge you with anything. However, you should pay to be a frumid and discharge your responsibility, obligations. You should pay the person for the damages. Now, well, I didn't do it. The cheresh did it. The shaitan did it. The cotton did it. That's a chitz of the chedesh issue. It's the force of the chedesh. So why should in the court here below you can't charge me? My possessions. What if I gave my cow to a chedesh to mine and then it goes in goring? Of course I'm responsible because it was a negligent of me to give it to them. So if I gave them a fire and you is my possessions, is you can tell me I'm chayiv? So what's going on? How's this Lakish explain this? Din? Why, if you gave the fire over to Chedesh Shabbat, you say you potter b'dini other? Why am I potter? It's your possession, and remember it's your fire. You gave it to them, so you're responsible. Oh, Itma, we already had the beginning of this page. Reish Lakish said, Omar, Reish Lakish said, Ma'ashmei Chizkiah, in the name of Chizkiah, sorry, not again, the first page. Loi shanu elakishamasa loi gachelis. He actually gave him a coal that was not sort of on fire, it was just an ember. The liba. So when you gave it to him, the fire was sort of concealed, and this guy found it, and the fire came out. So therefore, in that case, there, whose fire is it? It's the chedushes, and that's why you potter. But you're right. Aval masa loi shall have his chayv. If you gave him actually an open flame, it'd be chayv because it's my possession. My time of why? Because body has zeka. Definitely, it's a fire. It'll catch. It'll definitely cause damage. So it's like my cow, and I was negligent for giving it to them. No different. Rabbi Yechanan says, "Atfilu shall have his potter." He even gave an open flame. You are potter because whose koyach is it? Remember? He said when the fire travels, you're chay because of force. It's not my force. It's the force of the sheit and the cotton and the chedesh. Because somebody holds safsha the chedesh kagon. It's the holding on the chedesh that causes this to happen, not you know when Rabbi Yechon said that you're chayiv by fire? Ad the muscle you gave him gavza, you gave him dry wood that catches on fire in a second, and you gave him silsa, tiny little twigs, v'shraga, and a candle to light it with. So this is mamish pshia. This is like mamish pshia, like you're asking for it. It's like my Rabbi says, Rabbi, what's the basis of Rabbi Yechon to say that Isha is not because of your possession? The Shlakish makes sense. The pashtus, anything which is your possession, you're responsible, obligated. But when Rabbi Yechon comes to the mice, it's like the fire travels on its own. The wind is the one who's carrying it. And he told me that says, my koyach. Where do you get that from? So we bring a pasuk and we bring a braisa. My Rabbi Kro he's a pasuk and there's a braisa that supports him. Rabbi Yechon, Kro, the chesiv it says ki seitze eish. So it says seitze eish, right? The fire travels on its own. And then the pasuk concludes, Yishalim Hamavir. That one, it says in the pasuk that it caught on fire, is Yishalim Hamavir, the one who lit it. So the Torah addresses it back to you as if you're the one who's pushing the fire. Clear that it's like your koyach, not just, you're a cause. It's as if it's your force that's causing it to travel. And saying they must need in Abraïs, the Tanya we learned Pasach because the Pasach begins with Benis Kema Moina. It says Kiseitze Eish, a fire goes out traveling. It's like your possessions. The Simon ends off Beniske Gufa. It says Ma'avir, as if you are the one who's doing it personally. Like Melech Isha Mishum Chitzov. Okay, we'll stop here. Tomorrow night is 9:45. It's getting late.